Hey guys, welcome back. It's another episode of Standing on Business. Joining us here today is Dr. Sam Lombardi of Primal Chiropractic. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about Primal Chiropractic. What is it and what do you guys specialize in?
We founded Primal Chiropractic. We'll be 2 years old, actually, end of this month. Um, and my husband brought me to upstate New York, and I wanted to specialize in pediatrics and perinatal care as well as see whole families. And there wasn't anything quite like it, so I decided to create my own.
Very cool. Very cool. So tell us a little bit about how you got into chiropractic work, kind of your journey in the medical field, if you will.
Yeah, so originally I thought I wanted to be a pediatric dentist. Then I went and shadowed a family dentist and watched him fit a crown for like 30 minutes. And I was like, this seems miserable. So then I actually ended up getting an internship with a chiropractor and I absolutely hated it.
Oh, really?
Yes, ironically enough. And one of my friends, or my dad's best friends, his daughter went to chiropractic school, and she's like, "Oh, you're doing your undergrad in Colorado. Check out this perinatal pediatric women-owned office in Colorado." And at the time, I was interning at the place I was not so fond of, and so I went there, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, this is it. This is what I want to do." So it's definitely like any profession. They're really great practitioners and they're not so great ones. And so I was fortunate enough to have someone who guided me in a way in which I saw the potential and how you can really positively impact people's lives.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about chiropractic. What's the actual, like, I guess the name, like chiropractic,
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So a chiropractor would be
yeah,
me.
a practitioner of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. A chiropractic is the business itself, right? Or the profession, I should say. Profession. That's better. That's better. So chiropractic, like any profession, there are a lot of philosophies. Our philosophy is very vitalistic based. So it's basically the power that made the body heals the body. And the goal of the adjustment is to remove any interference between that brain and that body connection to allow you to basically live your most optimal life,
Gotcha.
essentially.
What's something that people don't realize when it comes to what that connection of like the alignment of your bones and your joints and stuff like that, and how much of an influence it has on your overall health?
Yeah, I think a lot of times chiropractic is looked to as symptom relief. And the goal truly and where it originated is actually the nervous system. So, focusing on the regulation component, right? How we perceive and interpret and respond to our environment is controlled by the nervous system. So, our spine houses the nervous system. So, any kind of interference within our spine is going to impact our body's nervous system, which is the master control center of our body and how we do literally anything. So, I would say that's kind of our philosophy behind chiropractic.
Yeah. What's like a connection you could say in like someone's health? You could like you said, a lot of times people think of a chiropractor when I tweaked my back or I
Yeah.
pulled something. But what's some a connection that maybe people don't realize when it comes to like, hey, this is impacting your health, and it's actually rooted in our field. Our like that we could solve for you essentially through chiropractic.
Yeah, I think a lot of things are, especially in kids, emotional regulation, behavior. A lot of that is nervous system dysfunction. So the body isn't able to respond to its environment in a healthy way, and so their bodies, they don't know, right? They're just experiencing life and responding to it. So if they don't have the necessary tools, then that's going to impact their ability to process and respond appropriately. Similarly to adults, a lot of mental health, sleep, emotional regulation, brain fog, stuff like that. It really does come down to the foundation of our being and how healthy that is.
Wow. So you said you and your husband have that's Primal Chiropractic. That's your practice together.
Yes, it's more mine.
Gotcha. Okay.
His dream was to work with his father. He's a third generation chiropractor, so he
Okay.
actually practices with his father out in Oneida
Okay.
full time, and I practice by myself most of the time.
Gotcha.
He's a wonderful support system and is really great when we're bouncing ideas off of each other, but it's primarily me in our office,
Gotcha.
and I'm the sole owner.
So he's the one that just kind of pulled you into our area here.
Yeah, yeah. It was Wonderful. Honestly, I didn't know what expectations to have.
So you're actually from Washington originally,
Yeah,
correct?
Washington State.
So talk to me a little bit about that kind of shift. What's, I guess, pros and cons, if you will, like kind of our area as opposed to like what where were you from exactly in Washington?
So I was born in Colorado. Then
Okay.
we lived in Canada. Then we moved to Washington for most of my childhood. And then obviously I've been not in Washington for 8 years before we moved here because I did my undergrad in
Hmm.
Colorado. Then we lived in Atlanta, and then we moved back to Colorado. We ended up here. So Washington, very similar in the rain aspect. Very, very gray, very
For
rainy.
sure.
But I would say the community here, and again, I was a child in Washington, so it's hard to know. But I have been really grateful for the community here because it seems like everyone is very open to new businesses, new opportunity, new insight, and new energy. So it's been really cool to be welcomed into a community.
Awesome. How has it been opening a business here in the Central New York area?
Um, well, there's two sides, right? There's like the state side and the aspect of like going through the legislation and
Mm,
learning all the hoops you have to jump through. That is infuriating to no end. But like I said, the community, the networking, the small businesses themselves, and the people who make up those small businesses have definitely outweighed the negatives of the legislative,
yeah.
component.
A lot of red tape that we have to go through here in New
Yeah,
York State.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely like a nuance. Once you figure it out, you figure it out, but there's really no roadmap to get there.
What's something that you kind of learned as you begin to grow and that you never thought, like kind of never imagined, hey, this would be something that we'd have to kind of overcome starting a new business?
That's a good question. Um, I don't know. Specifically, I feel like I was blessed in the aspect of have a really great mentor who I kind of had a business plan going in. So as far as the business like foundation, I had a really solid foundation. Definitely like the networking, changing approaches, and I just kind of learned throughout doing it that I'm not really going in for anything for myself. I'm going in to make those connections and open those doors and just build authentic relationships. And so I think just kind of figuring out how every community interacts and does business with each other was definitely a learning curve, but like in the best way. There was no negative experience there.
Gotcha. Primal Chiropractic. So that's a one woman show, or do you have anyone else on your team there?
I do have three other team members. I'm like trying to think, three other team members, four, including obviously my husband, who I view more as like my partner
Hmm.
than a team member. But they are incredible, and they have made the growth from the beginning to now just so much more fun, and our ability and capacity is expanded. So
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about like the choosing the right people and having the right people in place from the start of where you were and where you are now, and kind of how that has maybe evolved or stayed the same, and kind of your philosophy on a business in that way.
yeah, and I think definitely evolved is the right word, because, and I talk to my business coach about this all the time, like honoring where we started to where we are, and not everyone and everything we look for in each phase is the same. So it's really big to kind of step back and have reflection and look at, okay, at this phase, this is the exact person we needed, and they filled that role. And as we grow, the role expands and changes, and the demand may increase. And that person also has their own life outside of work, so we have to honor that. And sometimes people grow apart, and that makes room for a new person to come in, and it's all a positive change. So I think that's definitely been a big learning curve. Is that as the business grows and the capacity grows, we all have to grow as a team, or we go down different paths, and it's all for the best.
Yeah. Do you find that people generally choose their own path? Kind of like they know like, hey, this isn't. I'm in a different place, or I'm not the right fit, or do you have to have that kind of
Conversation.
conversation that sit down like, hey, like this is the difference and where we're at and where we want to be and where we need to be, and kind of how do you approach that as a business owner?
I would say a little bit of both. It's definitely a learning process in itself, but the goal is to be nice and transparent and have that open line of communication. So it's not something startling, right? It's like, okay, like we know the business is growing and evolving. We know the demand of the position is changing and evolving. Therefore, is this something you're comfortable with and you feel confident and valued moving into? Or is this something where you need to take a step back or pursue something else that's more, aligns with your life in the moment?
Yeah.
So So definitely a lot of conversations, and some of them more uncomfortable than others, but I think that's really important. It's important for us as business owners to have uncomfortable conversations because it's the only way we grow.
Yeah. What kind of advice would you give to someone that has like either an employee or like a team where like, hey, we need to shift into a new gear or a new kind of phase, and they realize like they still want to feel authentic and be true to the people that were with them from the beginning, but also at the same time realize that we need to be somewhere else. How do you kind of approach that?
The conversation, like with the employee or team member specifically,
Yeah.
um, it's a really good question. Like I said, I think it starts from the foundation of your relationship with that employee or team member. Ideally, from a business and a CEO standpoint, you should be meeting with them on a regular basis. So this should not be a surprise for anyone. The future pacing is big, right? Like, hey, we're so excited for this new life event that's happening with you. This is where the business is going. We're super excited about it. This may change, roles and priorities for us as a business. I'm always going to be talking to you directly about it. If you have any questions for me, you let me know, and then we'll move from there. Because ideally, you're communicating with them at least once a month and checking in. How are they doing? How's their performance doing? How's it impacting the business? So it should hopefully be a little bit easier when you have that ongoing dialogue. But generally, people are pretty intuitive.
Yeah.
So if they feel like, yes, I want to step into this role, I want to be part of this big growing system, or no, I feel called in my family life, or I feel called to go back to school. The goal is something that seems and settles with everyone in a
Yeah.
positive way.
Yeah, two of some of the biggest kind of like points of advice that we actually heard here on the podcast is
Yeah,
you have to understand where your goals are as a business owner, and understand the goals and the kind of the things that your employees are striving for.
hmm,
And sometimes, and I would say most of the time, they're not necessarily the same goals, because as a business owner,
absolutely.
you want the business to do well, and you want this and you want that. But for employees, it could be, hey, I just need to make some money until I get into school, or I'm trying to do this or trying to do that. And just finding that kind of crossroads of like, where can we be both on the same path, same direction. At the same time, we also got another really good piece of advice. This was end of last year, where if you set the standard and you set like, this is the goal, this is what we want to have as a team, as a business, these
Hmm.
are our values, and you find that someone isn't on that, they kind of almost, in a sense, they understand that they almost fire themselves. Like they
Hmm.
understand that, hey, I'm making the shortcomings of either the philosophy or the mindset, or quite literally the KPIs, like just the this is the performance that I need to be at, and this is what I'm not doing. And they understand, like, it's a not coming out of surprise. It's just they know what
Exactly.
they're coming from.
No, and I agree. It's important to have a team that's really bought into your mission. And I think that what's beautiful with, obviously I'm biased, and Primal is that like our mission is to help families and like, create families that are more regulated, kids that are more regulated, they can navigate the world better. And I feel like I'm passionate about that. Like obviously business is wonderful and the adjustment is wonderful, but to create, happier, healthier families is really the mission. So
Yeah.
I would agree absolutely that that's really good advice.
Yeah. What's like I guess what's a performance indicator for you in your field for
Like
your
a KPI.
employees? Yeah. Like what, like how do you how
No,
do you kind of
it,
evaluate like that is it just kind of quantitative based of like people are coming in feeling better, or is it there's
oh,
specific
from like a
things?
patient standpoint,
Yeah,
from like a
from
member
yeah,
standpoint.
yeah.
So we have progress exams that are kind of scattered throughout their care frequency they follow, and that's a really great way to objectively check in with them. Have you heard of heart rate variability technology before?
Mm-mm. Can you
So
explain that a little bit?
yeah, yeah. Heart rate variability is really cool science. It basically allows us to see how well the nervous system is adapting to stress and recovering from day-to-day life. It's going to track basal skin temperature, skin conductance, and obviously your heart rate, but it's looking at specifically what's happening in between your consecutive heartbeats. So we obviously want our heart rate to remain the same, but we actually want to see dynamic shifts in between heartbeats, indicating our nervous system is primed and ready to respond to stimulus and integrate it. So heart rate variability, and you've probably heard of Aura, the Aura Ring, or like Whoop,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that.
Yep.
They have constant heart rate variability monitors. So that allows us to kind of objectively check in with a member's nervous system to see how flexible it is. Because the goal of the nervous system is to maintain flexibility, because we can't control everything in our life, but we can control how our nervous system responds to it, right?
Yep.
So we'll do that as well as some other testing, and we'll check in. The first time they come into us is generally symptom based, right? We do have our unicorns who come in and they're like, oh my gosh, I just love it. Makes me function better, feel better. Like, I don't need problems. I want support,
Yeah.
right? But if we're coming in more for symptoms, we'll talk to them about that, how it's getting better, how everyone's favorite phrase, healing is not linear.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we see a really positive uptick, and then we hit that plateau where our body has to work through old patterns and old trauma in order to continue to heal. It's just the reality of life, unfortunately. So we're able to kind of check in there and see where they're at and track progress that way. Generally, by the time we get to their year anniversary, which is one of my favorite appointments, they understand, right? They understand that, yes, I came in with low back pain or neck pain, but not only is that better managed, I'm sleeping better. I feel like instead of wanting to blow my lid when someone asks me a question, I can actually like take a breath and move through it instead of feeling wound the whole rest of the day. So just things that they notice outside of the symptoms that their body's better regulating really helps them understand at a deeper level why taking care of the nervous system is more important than just pain.
Is it just merely from the adjustment, or are there kind of like behavioral shifts that you kind of educate your patients, clients on of, hey, this is the kind of things that you should be working on as well on top of the visit that they come into you with?
I would say yes. I mean, a lot of it's lifestyle, right? So, are you prioritizing movement? What are your stress relievers? Do you know how to breathe to help downregulate your body and activate that vagus nerve? So I would say people don't necessarily come to us to look for that because we're already talking about it, if it makes sense. Like, we have fun little discussions all the time about how you can do things outside of the adjustment to help support your nervous system. And the cool thing about what's happening in the world is people are becoming more aware of it and aware of what certain things positively and negatively impact it.
Yeah. For business owners, it's a very high stress, wound up a lot of times
Yeah.
environment. What's like practical, like 3 pieces of practical advice you could give someone that's a business owner of like, hey, this is, you should check in on yourself, make sure that these things you're taking a look at to make sure that you can perform at your very best.
From like a human
hmm
perspective or from a
Maybe both, maybe human,
oh,
business,
okay.
and kind of
Okay.
what have you learned in the process of having your business, I guess.
I think reflection is really
Mm.
important. And I think reflecting on like the year before, and obviously it takes time to get to a point of reflection. But I've pulled up on my schedule like let's say it's 3 months into opening and looking at like maybe 3 or 4 patients scheduled. And then we look at it now and we have 200.
Wow.
So
Congrats.
thank you. But it's like it's humble beginnings, right?
Yeah.
And honoring where you started and all the work you put in. Because sometimes we're chasing that next win, right?
hmm
We're like, okay, what is the next level? And we have to be like, okay, but where did we come from?
Yep.
And look how much we achieved, how much everyone supporting us helped us achieve, and honor that because it helps recenter ourselves. So I think that's an important tidbit, is to make sure we're always reflecting and sharing gratitude.
Yeah.
And then I think definitely purpose is another big one. Making sure you're clear on your why when you lose motivation too. I definitely learned this first into this second year. And I asked my mentor, I was like, I just feel like I'm not passionate anymore. Like, I go and I do it, but I'm not excited.
Yeah.
And, you don't want to transfer that energy because, like, for me, I'm physically touching people, and any kind of touch is a transfer of energy. So I want to make sure my intention is there. So she said something. She said, go back and read some of your favorite Google reviews. And she said that actually, like, well, and you'll think about that person and their, where they started and where they are and how you got to play a role in their life. And it's pretty impactful and definitely helps you recenter yourself and find that why again.
Yeah.
And I think outside of that is doing things outside of your business that fill your cup. whether, it's nature or, reconnecting with friends, but things where you shut your business brain off and you focus on the other part,
Yeah.
whatever's left.
Yeah, I think as business owners, it's really easy to get stuck in like the growth, like the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the
Exactly.
next thing,
Yep.
and then you kind of really, and when you have that kind of perspective, because at first the next thing is like, I want this to be sustaining, I want this to be successful,
Mm-hmm.
but then once you get to a certain level of like, okay, this is going, it's going, but now you're looking at it, and you always have like almost like a negative outlook on everything, because you're like, it could be better, it could be this, it could be that.
Absolutely.
But then quite literally, when you just look back and say, okay, a year from yesterday, back, we were here, and now we're here. And I would have wished, like, in that moment, if you said that this is where we're at now, I'd been like, awesome. But
Yeah.
now you're in this moment and you're
You want more.
unhappy. Yeah. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of like unfortunately, the nature of humanity, if you will, like always like that
Yeah.
constant, like,
More, more,
more,
more.
more, more, more. Yeah. And I think it's very practical and very necessary to find a certain level of contentment of like,
Mm-hmm.
everything is great, like,
Yeah.
praise
Yeah.
God, it's great, everything's awesome, like,
Absolutely.
just chilling and enjoying that, but at the same time still have that kind of
Yeah.
that fire of like, and that's where I guess that purpose also comes in as well, of like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
what's the reason why we're doing all of
Yeah. Why
this?
did I start this?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Besides, the goal of getting to where you already are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. How has it been, I guess, do now, like, from where you started to where you are now, do you find yourself having to kind of almost like sell people on it? Like, what kind of advice would you give to someone that's starting a new business and kind of like still has almost like that kind of doubt in their own self, from, starting from a small client base, a small kind of pool, to now
Yeah.
like, hey, this is the steps that I took. What would you say in that
I
situation?
would say be yourself. Because I mean, and uh, chiropractors they have a very black and white view of this, sometimes biased, but like a personality based office, right?
Mm,
Do not necessarily, you may want it, you may not want it. But I think if you're authentically who you are and you're going out in the world because you have, fire in your heart and a passion that you want to share, the numbers in the beginning don't matter. If you're there and you're ready to spread it, your people will come.
mm,
And then as long as you have a good business plan and what you're providing to them is, a good service, whatever it is, then they'll spread the word and the community will grow. So I think a big thing about that is just being authentic to yourself, and like you said, selling, right?
yeah.
It's always intimidating because you're like, what? Why would they perceive what I have has any value? But if you truly believe it in your heart and it's something you're passionate about, it won't feel like selling. It'll feel like you're just spreading the word of what you value
Yeah.
and want more people to have access to it.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people start with kind of a little bit of like an imposter syndrome,
100%.
where you
Yep.
kind of feel fake, like, ooh, like, would I would I
Yep.
pay for this, or what I, but you
Yep.
you you do have to kind of make that realization of like, this is something of value. This is something that is bringing change in people's life, helping them, and if it could be for anything, even chiropractic work or marketing or whatever, like
Absolutely.
you're bringing a value to someone's existence, their business, their organization, their life,
Hmm.
and value means value, monetary value as well
Absolutely.
as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
No, I would agree.
sweet. Kind of spitballing on that idea and the topic.
Yeah.
When businesses start, a lot of times we kind of think about like core values and core principles.
Hmm.
And we were kind of talking, and your kind of mission is to support families and help people kind of grow. How do you kind of establish and kind of set those principles and make sure that your team is also meeting that mission statement, and kind of making sure that ethic
Values
or
in
that
there.
value is kind
Yeah.
of communicated throughout every single facet of your business?
I think that starts with, like, how you create the environment, right? And like how your team members interact with each other, interact with you. Um, our team, I love loving on people. And so anyone who comes into our team and becomes part of it they're really special to me. And I will make sure that they know they're appreciated and that I remember the little things because I want them to do that for our people. So I think some of it is culture, right? So
Mhm.
when they're, we're happy, we're joking, but we can get serious and we can talk about things that are important, right? Because a lot of our job, people will share things with you that are big in their lives, whether it's celebrations or sadness. And we want to be able to be fully present and hold them where they are. And that's part of the beauty of the job. So we have to make sure our team environment creates that kind of safety, where regardless of who's coming in, they're feeling heard and feeling like they can express what they need to express. So we do a lot of training. We do training every week. Some of it can sometimes feel mundane, and I talk to my business coach about this because I'm like, I'm out of ideas, man, and she's like, you got to start back at the top, girl. You got to start back at the top. So we literally will go through every single appointment, every single potential scenario, and we'll role play. Because yes, we've all done it hundreds of times, but we catch each other doing silly things. Because when
Mhm.
you start just doing things over and over again because it becomes mundane, you start either skipping steps or missing the impact, or we realize there's a better approach.
Yep.
So I think that training is really important because it allows us to check in and still honor our systems and make sure everyone's at that level that we want to project to our people too. From like a culture and values standpoint, we get together pretty frequently to do, not only social but business things, so that we still hold that connection, so that our relationship is healthy in and out of the office, as well as we're bringing the energy into the community itself, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, I feel like that's kind of it. And we're to the point where I love it. It's my favorite. They'll be like, "Oh, so and so had this happen. We need to write a card for them, or let's get them flowers, or this crazy cool thing happened in their life." Because sometimes they catch things that I miss, and to be able to have that team where they're like, "Oh yeah, remember that," and I'm like, "Oh, thank you," because it makes every member's experience special. Because truly, we do care deeply, and so it takes a whole team and to have that connection to make sure we're on top of everyone and everything that's happening in their lives.
Yeah. So your clientele, is it more membership based, or is it like a one off, or how does it work? Being
um
if I were to come to Primal Chiropractic, how would that experience look for me?
yeah, so I would say more member based. So we do what's called corrective care in adults. So we take digital x-rays in our office. We go through everything to do with their nervous system from top to bottom, and from there we talk about kind of recommendations or game plan moving forward. So everyone and everything I recommend to each individual is based on them. There's nothing kind of cookie cutter about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially when we see so many babies and stuff. Every baby has a different story. Every adult has a different story. So it's very important. It's unique to that person.
Hmm.
As far as like sometimes once they've hit that year mark, they do transfer to more of a membership because it ends up being wellness, right? So
Hmm.
our goal is to just support them for longevity purposes and the highs and lows in life. So then to that point, it would be more membership based.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So earlier you were saying about kind of be yourself at work,
Mm-hmm.
personality based office,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess in what way, I guess, do you draw a kind of not a separation, but almost in a sense like here's me in work and here's me out of work, or do you find that that should be just one person?
That's a hard question because I struggle with that too. It's like, are you too authentic? Like, where are you not professional enough?
Hmm.
Um, but I would say, yeah, that's a tough one. And from my personal experience, I would say I'm pretty much who I am at work or away from work. Obviously, in serious settings, you're serious. It's not like, oh, do 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 do
Yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But that's true in your personal life as well as your professional. And I mean, maybe some people don't take it as seriously because I choose to be who I am in both roles.
Hmm.
But I find that I'm able to flow through and be more adaptable when that is who I am, because everyone who shows up knows exactly who they're getting, right? They know who I am, and they know if they see me in the grocery store, I'm going to stop and I'm going to smile and I'm going to talk to them,
Yeah,
because regardless if you're in my office or if I see you at Wegmans, I'm the same person.
yeah, of course.
Maybe a little less fed or worse dressed, but same person.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it feels authentic to me. And I don't know, I would like that person to do the same for me, you
Of
know?
course.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times it's not like a wall almost in a sense, but more like it's it can be it could become easy to kind of get stuck in almost in a way like a rut of like, this is me at work, like this is a thing,
Yeah.
and then keep your personal life and things to the side. And also in terms of values as well, like if someone is very strongly has a very strong conviction about certain things about health and wellness and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
then does that translate into their role as a practitioner, and then kind of vice versa? Do you find that who you are in the business influences who you are outside of work, or vice versa, more?
I would say vice versa. I would say I definitely try to practice what I preach.
Hmm.
Um,
That'd be good.
yeah, right. So a lot of times though, like it comes back to reflection, right? Because I'm talking to these parents all the time. They're like, "Oh, my kid isn't sleeping," or they're going through another sleep regression. They're teething. They're dysregulated, and I've got my own kid, and oh boy, does he do his fair share of stuff like that. And so I'll be like, "Shoot!" So I'm telling all these people to do X, Y, Z. Am I doing it? And
Yeah.
then I'll start doing it again, and I'll be like, "Oh wow, he's so
Look
much
at,
nicer
look
to
at
be
that. It
around."
works.
Weird. If I follow my own advice.
Yeah.
So I would say I definitely have to be more conscious of both directions. But for me, it's easier to flow from side to side, and I'm fortunate. I'm in the health world,
Yeah.
and my life is a lot of that, anyways. So
Yeah. I think especially as it's a funny conundrum, but it's like the idea of the mechanic's car is the last one to get worked on. It's the same exact
yep.
way. Our social media is the last one to get touched.
Hmm.
Any of our health and wellness clients, they have to. I have to remind them also, like, hey, take time for yourself as well. Focus on your health and wellness, because you are a billboard for your business as well. And if you can't
100%.
practice what you're preaching for other people to, you can't set the example, almost like you can't set the example, but you also can't give that like real life insight of like, hey, I'm also doing this, and this is the results I'm getting from doing the
Absolutely.
same exact thing.
Well, I feel like as far as like from a marketing standpoint, I'm sure you can speak to this. It's a lot more storytelling now. Like, hey,
Yeah.
like I, experienced this. This is what I did to help me. It's what maybe you should try it too, kind of thing. It's
Hmm.
less of like factual, I guess, based or just like bullet points and more meaning. Like this is the person, this is their story, and this is where they are.
Yeah. On, I guess, kind of on that subject of social media,
Mm-hmm.
what do you find nowadays? Are people discovering Primal because of like just a renewed kind of, almost in a sense like it's a crunchy mom era? Everyone's like trying to get more natural, trying to get more health and
Mm-hmm.
wellness, be more like grassroots, if you will, kind of. And do you find that that's just kind of like a kind of an overall trend, or you think that that's a response to, I guess, like kind of what has been normalized over the last couple of years in terms of like our culture in a sense here in America?
um, I feel like both. Yeah, I feel like the last couple of years definitely have had a shift. People are focusing a lot more on, and I feel like it's termed a lot of like self-care, right?
Hmm.
Like what are you doing to help yourself? And so I think that shift has definitely impacted like what people are searching for now. So more of those like wellness and holistic based options are becoming more at the forefront. People are looking at more holistic, I guess, options before they go to the traditional medical approach, right? Like if I'm gonna use a constipated kid for an example.
Yeah.
So, if my kid can't poop, I'm gonna maybe try diet changes. I'm gonna take them to the chiropractor because that helps the nerves that communicate with the digestive organs, and versus, maybe taking them to the pediatrician. And pediatricians are now actually suggesting what I would have just suggested first before any medication associated, which is awesome. It's giving the body the power to do what it should be doing
Yeah.
before going to the next step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people in general are looking for, I think in general people are wanting to live healthier lives.
Mm-hmm.
With the rise of like, Ozempic and other, like,
Mm-hmm.
people want to be healthier. People want to be skinnier. They want to be more fit. They want to live more active lives. I think
Yeah.
it's more about just and especially now with social media as well,
Mm-hmm.
everything's out there. It's very accessible, and someone sees something about, either weight loss medication or, chiropractic or, like skin, beauty things and other
Mm-hmm.
elements. And they're like, okay, like, it makes it accessible for them as opposed to before where
Absolutely.
you had to kind of do your own research and go online, etc.
Yeah, you had to
Um,
search it out versus now it's like popping up on your feed.
yeah, exactly. And now things are like trends
Mhm.
and people are hopping on things like that too. And
Yeah.
do you how do you I guess how do you stand out in such a space and how do you make sure that people understand that this isn't just a trend, this isn't just a once in a while thing that you check out, but this is genuinely, or do they kind of come to that realization themselves of like this is long term something that I need to continue doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's all kind of in the education, right? So it's kind of that's like I would say the biggest thing that's on me and my team, right? How are we communicating chiropractic? How are we communicating the nervous system's importance to everyone who walks in and out of the office, right?
Hmm.
One of the philosophers of chiropractic a long time ago used to say, "No one ever really gets it." And
Mm.
that's like, and that can honestly be true in any industry, right? And the importance of it is like, you have to act like no one ever really gets it. Like, even if they come coming for 5 years, still it's important to re-dip, re-educate, because we all forget the importance sometimes. We all get stuck in the mundane of doing things over and over again. And then you have to be like, but why? Why am I doing it? Like, yeah, I'm going to the gym every day and yeah, I've hit my ideal weight and I look good in the mirror, but then you get caught up in the mundane and you're like, what if I stop? Why do I care?
Yeah.
So I think it's the educational component and just making sure that we remember that our nervous system never goes away and like taking care of our body is always going to be important for longevity and for our children and our grandchildren and that educational component I think is really big. As far as standing out, social media wise, we're still figuring it out. Like it's I think it all just ebbs and flows, right? You have months where you're like, yes, this is awesome. And then you have months where you're like, we need to go back to the drawing board. But I
Yeah, of
think that's true in all business, right?
course.
You just have to adapt and change and evolve and try and fail and try again.
Yeah. What gets you fired up in the morning to come into work? I know for a lot of business owners, like in myself especially as well, is like you get going with the dream, you get going with the idea, but then at a certain point, it does kind of almost in a sense become routine,
Yeah.
and almost in a way, you kind of feel like just like an employee at your own business, if that makes
You're
sense,
not
right?
wrong. No,
Yeah.
it makes 100% sense.
And how what do you do to kind of get yourself excited about greeting another day at work?
Um, I would say, I mean, I say my affirmations on the way, like a weirdo that I am. But when I walk in the door, I like hold the handle for a second and I take a breath just to create presence within that moment. Like I'm out of the house, I'm out of family mode, and I'm into work mode.
Mm,
And then I'll look at the schedule by myself, ideally, and I'll just get excited about the people I'm going to see. I'll be like, oh, she just had her baby. That's going to be so cool to get to talk to her about her birth and see how it went. Or, his son just graduated high school. Like, I got to remember to congratulate him, or it's his birthday
hmm.
today. I just get excited about people and about getting to be part of their lives and getting to help them feel seen. And so I think that's the exciting part is just looking at it instead of like numbers, right? Like,
Yeah.
hey, how many adjustments do I have scheduled today? Right? Or
Yep.
like,
Yep.
have we hit our metrics? It's like, what role do we play in people's lives and how can we make them feel special?
Absolutely. So kind of now zooming out, if you will,
Yeah.
into kind of our like CNY area. Well, I always
Yeah.
love talking with people that are not only business owners, but business owners here in our central New York area. How do you see our kind of community not necessarily shifting, but there's almost like this growing sense of optimism almost in a way across like CNY area now with like more development coming through and
Yeah.
everything seems to get like it's almost like a season of renewal. Everything is just like the roads are getting better. I know,
Yeah.
like with pain because of traffic and
With
everything, but
pain. Yeah.
yeah, but it seems like just like everything is building, growing, and not only just because of like Micron or anything like that, but like just in general, it seems like our community, our Syracuse area here, if you will, is kind
Yeah.
of flourishing. How do you like position yourself in a space like that with a the hustle and bustle, everything as a business owner? What are you doing to kind of stay at the forefront of people's mind?
Good question. I mean, I feel like since we're already still very young, we're able to just kind of roll into the snowball of the momentum, like you said, because there are a lot of people moving from different places here, and they're looking for increased standard level of care, and our goal is to always hit that. So like I said, making sure we're on top of our trainings. When something doesn't work, change it, right?
Hmm.
And making sure that we're modernizing with what's happening. I'm big on continuing education, so I try to prioritize that and then bring what passion that gives me back into the office and use all of our team's brains to continue to evolve. Because I think, like, I mean, I grew up on the West Coast, right? And they're all about the new.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's fun when I go back there. I'll go. I've got good relationships with the business owners now, but I used to go shadow offices because it's cool to see, what they're doing out there. We can bring back here, and a lot of people who walk into our office, they're like, "I've never seen this in my life." It's like, yeah,
Something new.
that's how I want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah. What's something that we're kind of missing here in the Central New York area
Ooh.
from bigger cities?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard. I would say good coffee, but I get some shade from that. So, no, there are some really good coffee shops around here, though. You just have to look for them. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like you said, everything there, it's starting to come here.
Yeah.
Like that's the cool thing
Yeah.
is like you've got Spoke now, like because Cycle Bar was big where I grew up, and like a lot more of those, fitness studios, like your Project Clean Nation, kind of like the more health related food
Yep.
places. I would say I would love to have more of like have you heard of Sweet Greens or like
Hmm.
yeah.
Kava.
Yes, Kava, that
Kava. That's
too. Like
that
more
I
the
always
healthier fast food
yeah, yep.
options.
I
Yeah.
always said because I love getting kava, especially like whenever I travel, I'm like, is there a kava here?
Yeah.
And it's funny enough, we're getting a kava. I think
Oh.
I think in the next year or so and do it.
Oh,
So I'm
perfect.
I'm
You're
so
you're
excited.
excited for
I'm
that
excited for
one.
that. Yeah.
Oh
That's
yeah.
my favorite corporate slop. That's
Oh, it's good. It's good. It's real good.
it's yeah. But I think yeah, in general, I think there is like that almost in a way that like sense of like growing optimism here with the Central New York area. People
Mhm.
are excited. We have bigger brands coming through. We have,
Mhm.
the chains, if you will, that only like bigger cities are getting, like
Mhm.
I remember like 10 years ago when we first got the Costco, like that was the big thing,
Love Costco.
that was the big thing that we would finally have a Costco. And it's like, it's kind of like, it's just this kind of momentum steamroll that's
Absolutely.
been happening.
I would say an athletic club. We need like a true athletic club. Like, have you heard of Windy Hill? There's one
Mhm.
in Rochester.
Mhm.
They need to bring one out here, like
Yeah,
an indoor track, stuff like that, to give more activity during the winter.
absolutely.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite? You said you got to find things out of work, the things to fill your cup. What are some of the things that Sam fills her cup with?
I love working out. Any kind of activity is a big. I like baking. My son loves baking. Well, he loves eating the food I bake, so he'll do it with me for that purpose only. And I love traveling. So big way that I do it is I'll travel every couple months. It just gives me perspective.
Mhm.
I feel like I come back refreshed.
Yeah. I think it's very important a lot of times that business owners especially, you kind of live live to work instead of working to live, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's that balance that you have to kind of find of like, am I just like living just to go to work the next day, and like,
Mm-hmm.
and you want the business to go well, and it's like kind of like your baby, your thing. But then to kind of finding that balance of like, this is just a job
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like kind of having that mentality of like, yes, I'm just imagine if I was working at someone else's company. Because I find that, at least from, I don't know how it is for you, but for me, I find myself sometimes I'm here at work for 12 hours and I'm like, why was I here for 12 hours?
What was I doing?
Like what was the reason? Like I should have had the mentality of like kind of a checklist or kind of my hours of like, this is what I need to get done. I'm here from 9 to 5. My boss is only paying me to be here from 9 to 5, and kind of go on with the day, because it kind of it does reflect into who you are then, like how productive you are, but as well as like your outlook on it as well. And it's important to have that, like, okay, this is business time, this is family time, this is personal time, and kind
Absolutely.
of keeping those not necessarily separate, but keeping those in their specific time at their specific moment. Because at the same time, you don't want your family time to be overbearing into your like time to, hey, I got to get some work done, at the
Mm-hmm.
same exact time on the flip side of the coin. You don't want the opposite flowing into that.
Yeah.
At least for myself too. I
Well, it
find my,
impacts presence, right? So
of
like
course,
if you're thinking about business, you're not present with your family. If you're thinking about your family, you're not present in your business.
yeah,
And same vice versa, even for when you're trying to focus on just like some self-reflection.
yeah. I find myself having to like literally just put the phone down and like put it away on the weekends, because I'm like, I'm trying to have like just family or
Be a
friends.
human.
Yeah, just do something else, and you're worried because you want to make sure Monday starts off on the right foot, and
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's important to kind of set those boundaries in between
absolutely.
business and personal. How do you do, or like, kind of how do you regulate that?
It's I feel like a learning process, like, as you just were saying, like, I catch
Still not
myself
there.
and, like, I'm like, "Please stop." Like, "You need to stop." I think, like you said, hiring a team and, like, people who support me in different aspects has definitely alleviated a lot of, like, what I put on myself. And I think I've just, like, come to the realization that if I don't answer this text right away, if I don't do this right away,
Mm,
nothing's gonna happen.
yeah,
Like, even though it's urgent in my
yeah.
mind, it's
It's
not really urgent.
Yeah, they're not gonna blow up. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's just, like, reality checking
Hmm.
and similar to you, like, um when it's Friday after I'm done working, I'm done, and I try to not do anything until Sunday evening, which is when I prep for the week.
Yeah.
And so, just creating that boundary so I can be present is really important because it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
Because you could do it 24/7.
Of course. I think that's the biggest thing that people, they don't realize, like, because you unconsciously do it almost in a way,
Hmm.
because you want your thing to do well, you want whatever that might be, the business,
Yeah.
organization, etc., you want it to do well, so you're like constantly plugged in, and I think that's also another, um sometimes realization that you have to make to yourself is like,
Hmm.
you don't expect your employees to do that, right? You wouldn't
Oh,
expect, like, okay, it's fair, it's 8 o'clock on a Thursday, they're not going to respond to on their, I'm not going to ping them on Slack or email and they're going to respond back to me. Why am I doing
exactly,
it?
exactly. No, it's 100% right.
Yeah.
You gotta sometimes almost like treat yourself like an employee in a
Like,
way and be
quite
like,
literally.
okay, clock out.
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
What you doing?
So we always like to ask our podcast guests
Yeah.
here. Our podcast is called Standing on Business. And what we mean by that is, like, what is the business that you're standing on? What are the values, the core kind of principles? Like, if we were to distill Dr. Sam Lombardi to, like, this is the core thing that I stand on, what would that be?
Oh my. uh, hmm. There's so many that um, I feel like intention is a big one. That we stand for intention, the freedom of choice and empowerment within our own health and our bodies. And community is a massive one for us. So that's really big because that's how we've grown is just creating a community where people are hugging each other when they're coming in to get adjusted, or we had someone who hadn't seen someone in 10 years and they both ended up coming to see us. It was just weird timing, and moms who cry together because they're just both going through the same thing. And so I think those three things definitely are big for us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us
Of
today on our
course.
podcast. For someone that might be interested in leveling up their wellness game, where could they find Primal Chiropractic?
We're on socials, so Instagram, at Primal Chiro. We got a website. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We don't have a TikTok, so
Okay. Where are you guys physically located?
we're in Fayetteville, just like on the main drag. I don't know if do you know where Bull and Bear in Fayetteville is.
Hmm.
Yeah, we're like 3 doors down from them. Got big glass windows. You can stare right in at us.
Sweet, sweet. All right, guys, that's been another amazing episode of Standing on Business. If you are a business owner, organization leader, anyone that's running something here in the CNY area, we want to talk with you. We want to meet you. So please reach out to us, and please feel free to share on all the podcast platforms that we have. And again, thank you, Dr. Sam Lombardi, for joining us today. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Thank you.